Hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Frame by Frame podcast. This is a second episode of what we hope to be a long line of episodes where we have special guests who talk about themselves, talk about their background, why they got into the world of design and other things. And this evening's guest is no exception. She founded a company called Design Buddies, which has 54,000 plus followers, three of which are us. Myself, Will, and Zach. And we also urge everyone else to join because it is the in place for anyone who wants to become a designer, wants to connect with designers, or maybe you even want to just work on a project, you want to collaborate. Get in touch with people on there. They'll all be happy to do so. Anyway, the founder of Design Buddies is also a UX designer for a major international gaming company called EA, a company I think a lot of us have heard of, especially those who are Battlefield aficionados like myself. Anyway, without further ado, we would all like to introduce Grace Ling onto the show. So, Grace, a very big welcome and a very big thank you for taking time out to join us this evening. How are
Thanks for
you?
having me. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
No, it's a pleasure. Thank you for coming on the show. For our listeners, for the benefit of our listeners, can you just detail a bit about your background? For example, where you grew up, what kind of things you studied, and whether they were related to design or not.
Yeah, for sure. I changed my career paths many, many times. I'm still figuring out to this day, but having a lot of fun with it. I was born and raised in California, or some might call it Silicon Valley, where it was very tech. Everyone wanted to become like an engineer at Apple. Born and raised on Cupertino, actually near the Apple headquarters. And everyone wanted to be like a doctor, engineer, lawyer. School is pretty competitive. However, I was always kind of a rebellious kid. I thought being mainstream was really boring, in my opinion. I still do. I still think that way too. And I want to become an anime artist. And I kept drawing in class. I really was into gaming. My grades sucked. Like, I sucked at school, and my parents had to bribe me with video games in order for me to try in school. So that was like my childhood. I loved drawing comics in class, drawing anime style, playing a lot of games, was a big nerd in the games. I've always dreamed of working for a gaming company, which kind of led me to where I am today. However, in high school, middle school and high school, I was always kind of like the class clown. Loved making people laugh, and now I yell on the internet, so it's all good. My mother, she started paying me to go to the gym with her when I was about 13, 14 years old, and then I discovered running. And soon got really into cross country and track, broke all my school records, made to nationals, got placed in the national ranks, and it was a huge part of my life, actually, which actually inspired my major when coming into college. I never imagined myself ever studying engineering, but I came into college studying bioengineering and then later graduating with that. And I wanted to study bioengineering because I wanted to learn how to biohack myself to run faster. I told everyone I was pre-med because I wanted to sound fancy, even though like I hated studying. But I would just like do it for the clout, I guess. Like when you're young, at least when I was younger, I cared a lot about what people thought of me. So that's why other people's perception of me really influenced my early career desires. And then halfway through college, I decided, I don't really think I want to go to pre-med. Like, I hate test taking. It is, like, so hard. I'm not interested in memorizing all these molecules in organic chemistry. And so I was just kind of, like, felt like I was kind of restarting over because I was pivoting my career desires to computer science and game design and development because I got into CS because I want to learn how to make games because they were such a huge part of my life. And I was doing game design, game development throughout school as like personal projects and throughout some internships. So I shifted my focus to computer science. However, when I graduated from college, I ended up graduating with a bachelor's in bioengineering and master's in computer science and engineering. But around like 2019, I did like an internship at Intuitive Surgical, and it was like a robotic surgery company, and I was a virtual reality game developer. So I made games to train surgeons to do surgery, and throughout that process, I went through like the end-to-end product development cycle, all the way from like concepting, understanding the problem, to all the way like prototyping, executing, user testing it, iterating, and a lot of it was spent in development. And I really realized that like I like the design, the game design, the level design aspect of it, and testing it with people and iterating, not the actual like coding side of it. And I was really slow at it. Like being born and raised in Silicon Valley, I always thought like, hey, I need a code to be like successful. And I tried so hard to enjoy coding, but I just couldn't feel it. Like I couldn't be one with the code. I tried so hard, but like I wish I did, but I just didn't. And I realized like that is totally okay. That's how I fell into UX design. I discovered UX design around the end of 2019 because I like design because it kind of combines like my art and science background. I can't imagine ever myself doing like pure art, pure science. That's why I liked UX design. It also pays really well without needing to code. So there was that part of it. And I realized that like I was looking at how to get into design. I noticed a lot of people have like HCI or design degrees or a boot camp, and I was just like I didn't feel like doing any of them, so I tried to just self-teach myself design and networking and creating content on LinkedIn. So how I actually got into design was I did a lot of like volunteer projects, design challenges, freelancing, created design buddies to like learn from other designers, also increase my network, started creating content on LinkedIn, ended up getting my current job at EA through cold reaching out to the director of my team on LinkedIn. And that's a bit about my background and how I got to where I am today as a UX designer.
Wow, that's some journey going from bioengineering and then computer engineering and then the gaming world. I mean, how would you say? I mean, it's really interesting because we all know what UX designers do, but working for one of the biggest game companies on the planet, what would you say the difference between someone who's working, say, for EA like yourself and someone who's working for a smaller games company? Like, the principles are obviously the same, but is there more? Do you have more projects you have to fulfill in a certain time, or do you get more time to do a project? How would you say it works? Not as a comparison, as in which is better or worse, but in terms of the responsibility or the amount of workload you have to do. I mean, I presume that the teams are going to be bigger in, say, EA than perhaps Rare or another gaming company. How would you surmise that?
Yeah, so EA is actually still my first job out of college. I've been at EA for about 3.5 years so far. So I don't have experience working for a smaller company full time. But what I can hear with from my friends who worked at startups compared to EA is that EA, since they're a much larger company, there's much more work-life balance because there's a lot of teams handling everything. However, some of the downsides that might come with working at a larger company, which I guess it's like downside depending on how you view it, is sometimes things are slow because they require a lot of approval across all the management chains. So in a small company, I heard you kind of move faster because there's less approvals, but you end up working a little bit more, but you also get a lot of experience in a short time. A big company, there's a lot of work-life balance and also resources to help you, especially early on in your career. I found a lot of value in working for a large company earlier in my career because I had access to a lot of mentors, resources, like a mature, like relatively mature design process that I can learn from too. So lots of pros and cons. I don't think either large or small is good or bad. It just depends on what you're looking for. And it's always good to experience both, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. Like you say, it's not necessarily better or worse. It's probably, well, I think the main thing as well is it depends on the project. I mean, obviously a smaller company will have fewer employees, but I guess it doesn't mean that the workload is necessarily any better, because I guess with the size of the company growing, you have the size of the teams growing to match, I suppose. Um, yeah. So how do you find it for yourself? I mean, you talked about how you really love gaming. You'd like to, get into animation, well, the anime cartoons and that kind of stuff. Is this something you will stay in, or do you have other plans, like perhaps either to work your way up to, say, a gaming director, or perhaps you want to go into more the level design of a game, for example, or the concept art, like as in illustration? Is that an area you would like to transition into, or if you already have to some extent, more into that area?
I think for now, I'm still trying to figure out what exactly I want to do with my career. I'm just enjoying the journey, to be honest. I really like UX design because honestly, I like it because I feel like it's what my strengths are in. That tying like the creativity and science and working with like engineers, product to build a product together. But I was also drawn to art, but to be honest, I'm not attracted to a career in art because it pays significantly lower. And that is that is how. But I love art as a hobby. I still draw a lot for fun. I draw a lot of graphical assets for design buddies. I used to have an art business and make merchandise like pins, stickers, and table at conventions. So I enjoy art as a hobby because I feel like art is something I love, just like doing it for fun without stressing about deadlines and making it my living and dealing with constraints, and kind of takes away the freedom like what I enjoy in art as like expression of self. So I see myself staying in UX design, but beyond UX design I really enjoy content creation and running design buddies. So for content creation, I actually grown a lot over the past couple of years. I work with brands, but also really enjoy sharing about design and lifestyle on LinkedIn, as well as travel and lifestyle on Instagram. And then through Design Buddies, it's been really, really rewarding, like growing a community, helping, impacting like 60,000 members worldwide in 3 years. So I love doing all these things outside of work. And I guess my goal is to continue doing everything I'm doing now and also traveling the world, going to 20 countries a year. So just enjoying what I'm doing now and just kind of finding ways to continue doing all of it at the same time is what my focus is currently in.
Well, I think that's the best focus anyone can have. I mean, if you have a job, well, the thing is, I don't really say job. To me, there's a difference between a job and a career. A job is something you do just to get by, pays the bills, the rent, gets the food. But then a career is something you enjoy, where you can, like you said, you can get the luxury of traveling to 20 different countries. You can enjoy yourself. I think it's a really good thing. If I think in general, if you've got a job you really enjoy, especially when the money isn't so important, but you've just got the passion, which clearly you have, Grace, for UX design, and that's evident. I think it's actually a good place to stay until you feel you really want to move on, not just move on for the sake of it, but to move on to pursue other ventures when you feel you want to, rather than rushing it before you probably do. Yeah. So for those who aren't aware of design buddies, shame on you if you're in the design world, if you're not aware of it. When was Design Buddies founded, and do you have any staff working with you, working for you, and if so, how many? If you could just give us a
Yeah,
bit of the founding background behind Design
yeah.
Buddies, please.
I created Design Buddies in April of 2020. Bit more context is right before the pandemic, in 2019, I was doing a lot of in-person meetups. I love with actually like strangers on the internet through a Facebook group. So for me, like my own personality is like I just love learning from people from different backgrounds than me and seeing what they like, what they're working on. Just out of sheer, I just love meeting new people. And the pandemic happened, everyone was shifted online. So I was also pivoting my career to design, and I was trying to learn design, and I was kind of reaching out to people one on one. But I realized I want to like meet more people and like create a community. So I made a Discord server because I want some more friends in design, and I also felt like it was a scalable way for me to learn design, like a way to learn design at scale, because I get all the experts in the room and I get them talking to each other so I can learn from them. So yeah, so Design Buddies, after like, and then it grew very fast. I remember getting our first 200 members within our first week. And I was like, I just posted it like on my own social media, in a couple of groups, and I was like, wow, this is great. So next 3 weeks, I promoted it everywhere I could. I basically like try to growth hack it. Every like Reddit thread, Slack, events. Like I got banned from some places because I didn't read the rules about self promotion, but I was like, YOLO. Let's see how big we can get it. And I think Figma reached out to us soon after that to do like a workshop, and then suddenly more brands like Adobe, Google, they started reaching out to us to do like events, workshops, and everything. So they started promoting us too, and then people started sharing Design Buddies. There are events with other people, with their friends, inviting their friends over. So it kept growing and growing. And then 3 years later, we are at 60,000 members, helping designers across the world land jobs, continue to do our events, virtual and in person, as well as like design challenges, media, newsletter, and more. And we're also launching a podcast as well. So it's been really fun. And then on our team, we have people helping us, like Alexa helping me with partnerships, Haidita helping me with community, and also helping me with design challenges. And so, yeah, we have a small team, but I like to keep it that way so we can stay small, move fast. So, like, I know I mentioned how, like, at EA, it's like such a huge company and sometimes things move really slow. And I personally love the practice of moving fast, break things, learn, iterate. So that's that kind of startup mentality, and that's what I love and like learning from Design Buddies, because I can't get that at EA.
Wow, well, wow, 200 followers within the first week, and then obviously you were advertising Design Buddies. I mean, that is some meteoric rise. You know, it's only been, what, 3 years just over, and you've gone from the initial 200 to having in total 60,000 members, 54,000 on LinkedIn, but that's obviously not all the members that are joined, because some people don't have LinkedIn, some people haven't followed the page because they don't use it. But that is some real impressive figure, 60,000 within a few years. And then you said that you got recognized by Google. Figma did a workshop. I have to ask though. You mentioned you got banned from some events. Was one of the events Comic Con at all?
No, I don't think so. I've never been to Comic Con.
Oh, okay. To be honest, it's the only event I know of. I don't
Oh,
know of
oh, I
any.
mean like banned from some subreddits, because I know some design Reddits, they have really strict rules about promotion. I didn't read them. I just
Oh,
posted it. Yeah, I just copy
oh,
pasted
oh,
it.
that's Reddit. No, that's Reddit. Reddit's full of nutters. I know. I'm one on there. Maybe, but I wasn't one of the moderators, so don't blame me for that. Even though everyone blames me for everything else on
No,
Reddit, I
it's all good.
definitely
I don't
wasn't.
really, yeah, no, it's all good. I don't really remember what those credit were.
Well, then they're just not worth remembering. I think that's probably the safest bet. I mean, I don't even use Reddit anymore. I think I posted in the odd thing, and it's just to say, yeah, I have Reddit. Wow. Okay. So, but hey, the main thing is you're recognized by some of the biggest companies in the world. I mean, Google. You've got Figma. There's workshops. That's collaboration. Will, Zach, did you guys have any questions for Grace? I know you. I think Zach, you had a one or two. I think.
Um, at this point, no. She's answered anything I wanted to ask, actually. So, um, yeah. Outside of that, I actually did not know that Design Buddies was on LinkedIn. I've been on the Discord for I don't even know how long since I've had a Discord. So, uh, yeah, it's actually kind of funny that you're on LinkedIn now. I'm gonna have to go add you guys if I didn't already.
Yeah, we have a
Yeah, I
LinkedIn
noticed.
page.
I noticed you weren't on there because when I clicked on the amount of followers of connections I've got who are on there, I saw Will's name. I didn't see yours, Zach. The only reason you're forgiven is because you said you were following the Discord, so you're technically a part of it. But you got to join the LinkedIn one. You got to follow it
Yeah, I'm going. I'm
now.
searching it right now, actually.
Thank you.
Yeah, you better.
So I really liked what you said about the tendency and the interest to just start trying things, breaking things, seeing what works, and just moving with what works. Um, I am really curious to know if you think that your tendencies back in school helped get you here. Because I realized when you were talking earlier, my pathway through school and engineering was exactly the opposite. I'm actually looking at your LinkedIn. I see your school dates. I think we were probably born the same year. I loved test taking in school. I loved that. That's what I lived for. I legit had a dream about it a couple nights ago. In college, I did computer engineering. I just still wanted to take those tests. And then it was only after I graduated I realized, like, oh, man, I don't like the industry I got myself into. This is just not very fun. I was always the person looking forward to the next test, like keeping such a narrow vision, not being particularly creative. And it was only in the last year and a half that I started being creative and exploring other opportunities. I tried to create an environment similar to you with Design Buddies. I only found out about Design Buddies later, but I tried to create something on Facebook, a Facebook group to try to help bootcamp students and other people who are trying to teach themselves and break their ways in. Me and my co-creator, we reached 70 members, and then just there was zero activity. It was just me and the co-creator, just an echo chamber for a couple weeks, and we decided to can it. But I've learned some important things for the next time. And so I almost feel like I'm chasing that creative spirit and the idea of trying, breaking, taking what works, and moving to the next thing. I'm starting with that a little bit later, but it feels good that I have it at all. I feel like you can probably agree that it feels great to just have that tendency at what I expect is a young age. Again, I'm pretty sure we're born the same year.
1997? Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, I know. Yeah, we're the millennials, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I do. Oh, sorry, Grace. Did you want? I was just to say I do have a question I've just thought up of. So, what would you say are the advantages between learning? Well, the advantages and disadvantages between doing your own self study, learning design on your own, as opposed to learning design in, say, an academic or design institution or something like that. I mean, of course, there are pros and cons, but for the benefit of those out there who are thinking of getting into design, because I've read some people's posts where they were learning by themselves, and some where they were like the three of us. We went through a boot camp, although I do have a background in web and graphics design. So yeah, what would you say are the advantages and disadvantages of both? Like I said, just for the benefit of those who are thinking of getting into the world of UX design and indeed UI design.
Yeah, I think it comes down to how you learn best. I know some people, they prefer more structure. Some people learn the best through like reading, writing, test taking, and some people learn best through doing it. I don't think there's a right or wrong where one is better than the other. It just kind of boils down to how you learn. And for me, I've always struggled in school because test was particularly hard for me because I couldn't really like memorize and apply them in like a closed set of space. So like I struggled a lot. That's why I'm not a doctor or a lawyer, because they require a lot of test taking. And I struggled with coding and just like memorizing all of that. So for me, like I thrive in an environment where I just can experiment and learn by doing. I think it's like the audio, visual, or kinesthetic read or write learning style. So figure out which one are you. And some people prefer more structure, so that's where like I feel like bootcamp courses really help. Is they provide a sense of structure, how you learn, like a clear path. And I feel like looking back, because the reason why I was actually considering doing a boot camp, but the reason why I didn't was I was still in my master's degree in computer science engineering at Santa Clara University, so I didn't. But it all ended up working well, and I discovered like, hey, I realized maybe I didn't really need it because I got a job anyways. But yeah, so it all depends on how you learn. And for me, it was learning by doing, and just doing projects helped me. But I know a lot of people who went through like master's degree, bachelor's degree, boot camp, certifications that found a lot of value and success with that as well. So there's no one set path.
No, I know for me
Yeah, I think-
personally, I'm all.
Oh, sorry, Zach. Go on.
Oh, it's okay. I know. For me personally, I'm more learning by doing, but when I don't know where to start, I need some kind of, I don't want to say structure, but like a start point. Like I need to see maybe the best order I should start learning things in, so I'm not wasting my time in the wrong places. And for me, a boot camp was really a good way to do it because they structure it, but at the same time you're on your own, so you do get to break things and you get to get your hands dirty and play a little bit. So I've noticed there's like a black cloud on boot camp graduates as far as like jobs at the moment, and I'm confused as to why, because even some of the best scientists are the people that just liked to play and they didn't know what they were doing at the same time. And now it's like, oh, you went to a boot camp, we won't hire a boot camper. Or I see a lot of older UX designers bashing on boot camp grads, and I don't really understand, because to me that's not a good example of UX. Like, you're supposed to be out to help the user, out to help the person, and you're taking somebody who just wants to do the same thing you're doing, and you're kind of smashing on it a little bit. And yeah, I don't know. So for people looking to do a boot camp, it's great. If you can learn on your own, it's great. I think learning on your own in UX is a little harder, because it's harder to walk in if you're not from a design background and be like, hey, look, I taught myself via YouTube, but I'm really good at what I do. And most people maybe not even look at you at that point. So
Yeah, I have seen some of those sentiments against boot camps, but I feel like a lot of it just comes down to like the marketing tactics. I know some boot camps, this is just like what I've seen allegedly through discussions in design buddies, like not something I experienced myself, but I've seen, like, nothing against boot camps like myself. I feel like they're a good way for people to like learn design, but from what I've seen, the argument against it comes from some of them comes from like the marketing of it. Like boot camps, they say they guarantee a job, but they also like hire their past students to say they guarantee a job. So like a lot of the marketing tactics
shady
might
marketing,
be
yeah.
shady marketing. Also, like they provide a lot of like portfolios that look very similar, like case study templates, like stopping on a persona without research, those kind of things. But I feel like as a for anyone listening, and all of y'all who might have attended a boot camp, I feel like there's also a lot of ways to still leverage your boot camp experience, like leveraging what you learned and then applying it and taking on more projects and using that as like a starting point. And like don't like feel bad because you attended boot camp, but I also know like the job market is not that great, even from seeing the discussions from students and master students who study like HCI. So it's like not that great for a lot of people right now, but when something goes down, usually it comes back up, in my experience.
Well,
yeah, now
it's
is the waiting
certainly
on
true.
when.
Yeah, it's not a case of if, it's a case of when. Although I've heard from other friends in other industries where it's not all that much better. I mean, the last quarter is the worst time to apply for jobs anyway, because obviously companies have spent their budgets. They need to wait to see what they've got until the new year. You know, if they've got a surplus, they have to spend it, but perhaps the surplus is not enough to hire someone or several people. Because generally, if you've got a budget left over, you have to spend it. Otherwise, it gets deducted from your next year's budget because it's seen as in you don't need it. But yeah, regarding boot camps, I'll just regale a little bit about my background. I mean, my web and graphics design, I learned entirely by myself. I mean, I've been using Photoshop for the best part of 20 years now. But do I know absolutely everything in Photoshop? No, I don't know every single thing in Photoshop because some things I never needed to use. Now, maybe some of those things could have made my designs easier, but I still got the intended result. Web design, I learned HTML, JavaScript, C++ on W3 schools. It's still going. And regarding Photoshop, all I did was watch, read tutorials, watch tutorials on Photoshop Cafe. But obviously UX, I did a boot camp, and for me, I did like the structure of it personally. I did like how there's a sort of it's a bit linear, but as you said earlier, Zach, you do get some degree of control. It's not as though you've got someone's eyes completely on you. They just want you to fulfill the task, but you can do it in your own way. So I think with boot camps, there's still room for creativity, for your own independent flair, your own individual expression. But yeah, perhaps there is a stigma associated with boot campers in the sense of, well, it's just a structured thing. They just learn some basics. It's not enough for us. Or perhaps the older UX designers, perhaps maybe some of it could be a little bit, I don't want to say bitter, but it could be that the way they learned, perhaps they had to take a 2-year course in university where a few months of it covered what we now call UX design and UI design. So it could also be that maybe it's just too easy for people to get into the industry. Maybe for some of the older people, it's more of a sort of guarded industry. Like with how Bruce Lee, when he brought martial arts to America, there are a lot of people who thought, that shouldn't be done. And perhaps that same principle is the same with UX design with some people, that it shouldn't be as available, that you should learn graphics design and product design as well. Who
Yeah, I
knows?
mean,
But having said that, I think there's a lot of talent out there from boot camps. There's a lot of talent.
Yeah, it's
yeah, and
interesting. I
it's
never thought of it that way. I think my advice is just like ignore the noise and just focus on doing the work. And eventually you'll get there.
Yeah,
There's gonna always be people with different opinions. And I feel like what really helped me succeed in life is to listen to both sides of the story and getting a wider perspective and then taking what I feel makes sense from it. And then like don't let someone you see on LinkedIn who might have like 40 years of experience tearing down boot camps like affect you at all. This is just one person, and everyone's worldview is shaped differently. So just keep working hard, doing the work, and don't be affected by the noise.
no, if you really enjoy it, go for it, and maybe you'll find out you don't, and that's when, I mean, with UX, it's such a broad spectrum of things you can do in the industry of UX UI design. So maybe you'll find exactly what it is, and it wasn't what you thought, or maybe, yeah, I don't know. UX is fun. Like when I was getting into design, I was doing visual communications. That was in 2002, and so graphic design. And then after that, I decided not to go into graphic design, and I was actually really glad because the year I would have graduated from my design school, the industry would have just been a swamp. Like it would have just been overfull, like the UX industry is at the moment, and schools were just pumping out graphic designers, and it was like, all right, some of these people, like, they did just enough to graduate that class and they can call themselves a graphic designer. So there's a million of them now, and so you could technically say the same thing about colleges being like a boot camp. Like you were just pumping out students, teaching them a curriculum, and they all are capable of the same thing.
yeah. I think that's another comparison I was also thinking of. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, I never went to university, so I'm just going purely based on what I think and from what people have told me about their experience. But it's the same thing, whether it's 6 months like a boot camp or 2 years. And we will say that actually boot camps you don't necessarily have to finish within 6 months. Some people have taken longer, perhaps they've got other commitments. But yeah, with university, like you said, you have a curriculum, you have a syllabus. Okay, you get to write a thesis that you choose a theme, but it's got to relate to a topic. But you can or a subject or a discipline, but you get to the creative side. And I think that's the same with the final project that we boot campers do. Certainly, those. I mean, I can only speak of Career Foundry, but it's kind of the same thing. You only get 4 projects. You have to choose one. Of course, the portfolios are going to be similar in terms of what the design process is going to be about for that product. So, if it's experts, a lot of portfolios are going to talk about such things as what do people want to find out, what do people want to know, or the other one is the money transfer app. Of course, research is research. You want to know, well, how do people make payments? Do they use Visa? Do they use credit card? Do they use bank transfer? And all this, that, and the other. So
Ask
yeah, I think it's a
GPT.
fair comparison. Yeah, yeah, GPT. That's something we're going to we should talk about in a future
Yeah.
episode. I think we definitely have to talk about Chat GPT.
I do have a
But
question for
anyway,
Grace, though, real quick. In
go ahead.
in your team at EA, what does your design process look like? Is it linear? Is it absolutely bonkers? Like I know currently in my company, it's there. There's no such thing as linear. It's one thing to another every other day. So
Yeah, it depends. Is usually my default answer. It's never linear. We never follow like the textbook definition of design thinking or double diamond. It depends. And it depends on what leadership wants, what the technical capabilities are, what the users want. It depends on the timelines, a lot of things. And oftentimes I have to make like compromises or things have to be pushed, but I just kind of roll with the flow. It's out of my control. And yeah, I just kind of have fun with it and focus on what I can learn from the situation. So at EA, I've mainly stayed around the similar team for the past 3 years, working on different products though. I changed like product pods multiple times. I worked on EA Help, a global game store, design systems, employee help, and then for the past 2 years or so, I've been focused on player experience marketing. So I work on EA Creator Network and EA Events. And so I worked very closely with product and engineering and other designers and research as well, most closely, and also with community managers, social media managers, to understand like better the workflow. And yeah, usually it depends. Usually sometimes, without going into detail, because I can't share a lot of it due to NDA, and all views are my own as well, don't represent EA anyway. But usually what happens in my own experience is like a request comes down from leadership, and then we work with research to understand what kind of problem is there, or like what exactly the need is. So it's a lot of like puzzle pieces, and then we validate what our ideas with research, with talking with users, talking with business partners, and then I go in taking the problem and potential solutions, sketch out some solutions, how things could look like, and some flow charts, how this new feature could fit into the current flow, and very high level discussions, get everyone's feedback, everyone's alignment on it before moving on to like more sketches, medium to high fidelity, and kind of go in based on that. But at every step of the way, starting from the idea, I always try to validate with all of our stakeholders, make sure I'm not wasting time and I'm designing something that is actually going to be helpful before spending time making it pixel perfect. And then I'll hand off after all these reviews, which could also take a couple of months, depending on the bandwidth of everyone and trying to align everyone and deadlines and stuff, because this is the real world. I hand it over to engineering and build it out, and sometimes we'll have back and forth about what's capable, what's not capable. But I guess the main thing is I try to just listen to everyone, like all the engineers, all the product, like everyone involved in the product, and get all of their feedback early on, and just continue making iterations, get everyone's feedback, and then handing it off. So that's kind of like my working style and the processes that I've seen so far in my career.
I found I found myself in a similar situation, but I think sometimes I'm annoying because I almost interview like all my colleagues and our stakeholders and stuff regularly. I'm like, okay, so is this really what we're doing? Is this can we stick to this plan, or did you want to change something? You got to tell me now before I go any further, because I'm gonna waste a lot of time then. And but that's usually a good thing, because sometimes it's almost like it slips somebody's mind, and as soon as you bring it up, it's like, there was something. You're like, thank God I asked now, because this would have been a mess in a week. So
yeah, I always think it's best to, even if you feel as if you might annoy a colleague a little bit, it's always best just to find out, just to save yourself time in the future. I mean, I've always said you can't. Even if someone gives you too much information, at least it's better than not having the information at all, because at least you can filter out what information is relevant, but at least you've got all bases covered. So, which is actually what you've got with Design Buddies. You've got all the bases covered. You've got a huge amount of followers. You're recognized by some of the biggest companies in the world. So where do you, or what are the plans for Design Buddies in the future? I mean, of course, it will grow naturally. People will obviously, more and more people will join. But what are your plans regarding Design Buddies? I mean, is it going to be where you expand it and almost taking it like a full-on business, but obviously minus the corporate side and everything else? Or do you see yourself founding other types of design or non-design companies itself? What do you see yourself doing going forward, Grace?
Yeah, I just want to prioritize like just having fun with it. As long as I'm learning something new and making impact, that's like my North Star. But for Design Buddies, I feel like the biggest impact we can help make is helping designers land jobs, and doing this through events, networking, so in-person, online events to continue connecting people. Also like doing content, more like podcasts, YouTube videos, and design challenges, helping people learn design for free, and helping people like make stuff for their portfolio with design challenges. So continue like on that like networking and content and community aspect. And then we want to scale for more in-person events. Like I love traveling. I travel a lot and I want to do like a real tour or just travel a lot. And so I have like big plans next year. I'm based in California, but planning some stuff in like London, Dubai, and Tokyo so far as well. So very excited for that. And yeah, I have no idea it's gonna be a full time thing. I feel like I'm learning a lot at EA. I'm learning a lot from Design Buddies. I'm just enjoying everything, and I have really great work life balance too. I have a really big social life, so I don't feel like I'm sacrificing anything. I also like love to create content as well, and I feel like all of this feeds into the inspiration I get for my content. So yeah, I have a lot of side hustles. I also do like consulting, public speaking, sometimes some freelance work as well, and it all like Design Buddies. My UX design job gives me inspiration to keep pumping out content and getting more opportunities and brand deals. So it's all like working very nicely together right now. So just I think I can continue living this way for and just seeing where it all takes me. But ultimately, I would love freedom, like time freedom. So like I can just go to the Maldives one day because I just feel like it. And so like that's kind of and go snorkeling and hang out with a stingray or something. Without thinking, I just go the next day. So like that's the lifestyle I'm working towards. And however I get there, like I'll just keep having fun along the way.
Yeah, well, I think that for a lot of people listening to this podcast, I think that'll be very inspirational. I mean, you're young, but you definitely have, that really good work-life balance. You're really enjoying life, but you're enjoying work. You're enjoying what you do. You're very passionate about it, and you really want to get people on board. As you said, with the Design Buddies, it's all about collaboration, making design easier to access, that you don't necessarily have to do a boot camp. You don't need to be a former graphics designer, product designer, or anything like that. So I think it is actually really inspirational. And there's still a lot of things I'm sure you want to do. And you mentioned one of them was traveling. Have you been to Germany before?
I have. I was there like a month ago or 2 months ago now.
Yeah, where were you about? Were you in Berlin?
Yeah, I was in Munich, in Passau to do a river cruise. And
Oh, wow.
I went on a 5 week trip to Europe across 11 different countries, and it was fun.
Yeah. Well, it certainly seems like you're very an intrepid adventurer, an explorer. But next time you're over in Germany, if you're in mine or Zach's neck of the woods, come over. It'd be great to go for a coffee. We all met up. We should do that if you're ever in. I mean, I'm in Dortmund. It's a beautiful part of the world. Well, not really, but I have to say that I do live here. Although Zach, what's it like in your place? I've never been there because I've not really explored your region. But what's it like, just briefly? So, if Grace ever goes to see your region, what would you recommend Grace to see?
I wouldn't come here unless you like retirement villages or wine. That's all we have here. No, honestly, if you like hiking or horseback riding or mountain biking, we live in the Palatinate Forest, which is like the largest connected forest in Germany, and it's all sandstone bluffs. So it's like pine tree forest and sandstone bluffs, and it's gorgeous. But yeah, I grew up in Michigan, so we lack the water that I'm used to, and I miss that all the time. And snow. We don't get quite as much snow here either. So
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
hiking.
I can relate to that. I mean, I've got friends in Michigan. I stayed over there, and one thing I miss is not the water, but the Pop Tarts. I miss all the
terrible.
I miss all the corn syrup stuff that Americans always inject. So yeah, I actually that really resonates with me, Zach. I completely understand you with that.
I
Okay,
think the
so
only thing I miss from the States is Taco Bell. As it's not even good. I don't know. We don't have
I
that
was going to
here.
say, how can anyone miss Taco Bell? I mean, I
Yeah.
tried it once. I hated it.
No, it's totally garbage food. It's the weirdest thing. But people are like, "What do you miss from home?" I'm like, besides the water and snow, for some reason Taco Bell. Like I just want a chicken quesadilla or something. I don't know what it is, but
I miss Sonic's in Michigan in good old Grand Rapids. That's a nice place. They do pineapple milkshakes, although I don't know if you can really taste the pineapple, but
That's
Oh
actually
well,
funny
it's
that you know Grand Rapids because that's where I grew up. So that's
yeah, I know
it's-
Grand Rapids. I
yeah.
know the Anchor Bar. I know one of the guy. I don't know if
Oh
he still
God,
runs it,
no!
but
The Anchor's the worst
um,
place in the world. Yeah, no.
oh, I'm glad.
We
I'm,
used to hang out
I,
at Mulligan's, which is an Irish pub, but now I think that area has been gentrified and it's probably not as fun anymore.
Wow, you don't like the Anchor Bar? I loved it. It was great. There was also the Nightcap, but it's not called that anymore. I forget what it's on Fulton Avenue, I think. It used to be called the Nightcap or something, but it's changed names now. But wow, you grew up in Grand Rapids. I know it quite well.
I am
Yep.
sorry to
You know,
not talk about restaurants, but I do have one last question for Grace, a little bit more on the emotional side. Grace, what was the first time you remember being really proud of your design work and thinking like, "Wow, this makes me want to keep doing this. I can do this forever."
Oh wow. Um, I feel like recently, actually, this year, we started doing a lot of in-person events, and for most of the time, most people I interact with design buddies is all online. And I we hosted events at 6 different cities, even in Singapore, and it made me really happy to like from people like reaching out to me at this meetup saying that they've been in design buddy since 2020. It helped them learn design, helped them get promoted, helped them like get their first job in design. And without design buddies, they told me they wouldn't be where they are today in their career. And so that was really, really fun and rewarding. We host and just like hosting lots of meetups and seeing the sheer amount of people who come. Like for our largest one this year, we hosted one at Config, which is Figma's conference in San Francisco. We had 500 people show up. And in the Singapore one, we had nearly 200 people who showed up. We're like longtime members of our community, new members, longtime members, we invite their friends. So it's really, really so much fun just to see people in person and
Amazing.
just like hearing their stories and stuff. Like at Config, like I couldn't walk like 5 minutes or like a minute without someone like reaching out to me from Design Buddies or LinkedIn. It was really cool. Like I was like so proud. I felt like a mini celebrity. And the reason why it's like that felt really cool to me was when I was starting out in design, I felt like such a small potato. I had so much imposter syndrome. Like I felt like I was a nobody because I didn't have a design degree or certification. And like having that like just a couple of years later, I was just like, oh wow, I have created something that's like beyond myself. So that was something that felt really great for me and
Surreal, I'm sure.
motivated me to continue like building design buddies to impact more people.
Awesome. I only recently had that first moment of like feeling proud in my design work, and it made all of the like 8 months of volunteer work that I've done this year all worth it. And I'm sure you
What
feel
was
the
that
same.
moment?
Oh well, so someone reached out to me on LinkedIn just this week. Said, "Hey, I've recently reached out to the founder at the company you work for. I work at a super small startup. The only person I actually speak with is the founder. He's the lead engineer. That tiny." Um, and she said, "Hey, I reached out to the founder. Um, I learned about Prentice. That's the name of the company. I'm super happy with the gamification aspects of it. I think they're super cool. Just wanted to connect with you, see how your story went." And well, I'm the one who did most of the design work on the gamification features. So that made me super duper happy to hear. That was the first person who really told me like, "Hey, I like the work you did," without them knowing that I'm the one who did the work. So that was that moment for me. Super
That's
powerful for me.
awesome.
Thank you.
yeah. Well, I think. I mean, I've got no further questions. I don't know if you guys have, but I think I think we really got a lot of information. I mean, obviously people listen to this, Grace. I'm sure some people will be able to relate. Some people will still find inspiration, even if they can't relate necessarily. But I think it's wonderful what you've accomplished, where you are now, and where you see yourself going along with Design Buddies. And again, if you're a budding designer, be a design buddy. So please check out the LinkedIn page if you do have an account for Design Buddies. And of course, there is the actual web page, which I think is designbuddies.com. Is that, Grace?
Oh, Design Buddies that community, and you can find our Discord server from there to meet other designers from.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a really great company. It's a great place for collaboration, finding new ideas. So I really recommend all of you listening out there, if you've not already a member, you're not already following it, please do so. It will be one of the best decisions, and you'll get a great support community. Yep, it is. That website is designbuddies.community. Okay, or simply just Google it. That's probably the easiest way. Anyway, Grace, we do have to wrap up, but thank you so very much for taking precious time out. I know you have a lot of other things to do. Just quickly, you mentioned the podcast. Is that already out, or is it something that's going to come out? What can we expect with that?
Yeah, we're actually recording our first episode on Thursday, so in a couple of days. So it'll be fun.
Oh,
And we have
wow.
a co-host. Yes, one of our team members, Maddie. I'm co-hosting it with her. And I have her
Wow.
lead most of it too. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember, after we filmed our first episode, and it was like, oh wow, we've got a podcast now. We just released our first episode, and it's an amazing feeling. And the thing is, with podcasts, you don't need to have a broadcasting background. You don't need to do anything. All you need is what everyone has, either a phone, better yet, a laptop, some recording software, and you just talk, record, and upload. It's very simple to do. But we're really looking forward to listening to your podcast, and yeah, very best of luck with the first episode. I don't think you need it, but it can be a little nerve-wracking at first. But it sounds like from what you've talked about Design Buddies and yourself, it's certainly a podcast worth listening to, and I'm looking forward to hearing the very first episode. So I'll be looking out for your post when you've announced it. But yeah, anyway, again, thank you so very much. We hope all of you out there have learned from Grace. Again, you don't necessarily have to have a background in something. You don't need to have a degree. You can just have an idea, be sensible with it. But the main thing is, as long as you believe in it, you should be able to bring that idea, concept to fruition. But yeah, thank you again, Grace. We hope you'll join us again in the future on another episode. Maybe we'll be able to see where you at, more journeys, your trips around Europe, because we have a lot of a European audience besides an American audience. But yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure from me, from Will, from Zach. Again, we're really grateful that you took the time out to join us on our podcast and talk about your journey.
Thanks for having me on. It was fun. And our podcast is going to be called Down the Rabbit Hole, where we deep dive and interview experts about different topics in design and life. So we're going to hop into Down the Rabbit Hole. So yeah, Design Buddies, our logo is bunny, so it's rabbit hole.
So it makes sense.
That's cute. I love it.
So,
thank you.
So for all of you listeners out there, this is something you have to jump on. You have to jump on the podcast. I mean, if we're on the theme of rabbits, we're going to hop on, we're going to jump on, all of this stuff. And but I think it'll be a lot more interesting than talking about carrots.
Oh yeah, we have just rabbit holes and maybe carrots. We have beans. Anyway, we have Fuffle, which is our mascot, and Fuffle's favorite food is jelly beans. It came from, long story short, I've always loved designing characters. I had this character called Beanzo the Bean that I designed when I was 10 years old, this dancing bean with a happy face, and then it's now Fuffle's friend, the bunny. So, I don't know, I just bring my original characters that I had since childhood to, Design Buddies too.
Well, I think it's a good thing that you brought that character, because if anyone else had brought that character, what's his name? Beans on Beans or something?
Beanzo, like bean and Zio.
Oh, Beanzo. Okay. Because I have a horrible
Yeah, it
I
actually
have a horrible feeling that could have been an internet meme. One of those do not laugh videos that you get. But at least it wasn't that. You've actually still got those early designs and characters with you. I don't know if I've ever really revisited any of my real old work. Perhaps I should. I don't know, but yeah. Anyway, once again, thank you very much. And for all of those out there listening to us who keep supporting us, we really thank you. And we hope that you keep enjoying the podcasts. If you're new to the podcast, maybe because you're design buddy and you heard or you read that Grace was going to be a special guest on the show, please look back at listen to our previous episodes as well, especially last week's where we had another guest, our first guest, Anna, very talented UX UI designer and animator. But yeah, thank you to all of you listening out there. Grace, thank you again, and I certainly we all look forward to seeing what more design buddies can do, and we really wish it a healthy growth in the community.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It was fun.
Yeah, it really was. So all of you out there listening, thank you very much, and I wish you good night or good morning or good afternoon, or I'll just simply say goodbye.